What if I told you that 1% is the most important number of your life? That getting 1% better every day could be the difference between a life of mediocrity and a life of mastery. That massive success doesn't require massive action, but instead tiny atomic changes that compound into astonishing results. This is the revolutionary power of habits, and in this video, we're going to unlock it. Chapter 1: The surprising power of atomic habits. Forget setting gigantic, overwhelming goals. This chapter introduces a revolutionary truth. Small habits compound into massive change. Think of an airplane taking off from Los Angeles to New York. If the pilot adjusts the heading by just 3.5 degrees, the plane ends up in Washington, D.C. instead. That tiny change completely changes the destination. Your habits are the same. Getting 1% better every day seems insignificant, but a 1% improvement every day compounds to make you 37 times better over a year. Conversely, a 1% decline leads you to nearly zero. The key to remarkable results is not a single monumental effort, but the relentless consistency of tiny atomic habits. What you learn. Success is not a product of daily intensity, but of daily consistency. Small, seemingly insignificant choices, when repeated, define your trajectory. Don't focus on the goal. Focus on the system of tiny wins that gets you there. Chapter 2: How your habits shape your identity and vice versa. This is where most people get habit change completely backwards. They start with what they want to achieve. I want to run a marathon, so they focus on the outcome. But the real path to lasting change starts with who you wish to become. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you believe yourself to be. The goal isn't to run a marathon. The goal is to become a runner. Each time you choose to run, you are casting a vote for your new identity. This chapter flips the script. The ultimate form of intrinsic motivation is when a habit becomes part of your identity. You don't stick to habits because they're easy. You stick to them because they are who you are, what you learn. The most effective behavior change starts with an identity shift. Ask yourself not what do I want to achieve, but who do I want to become? And let your habits be the proof of that new identity. Chapter 3: How to build better habits in 4 simple steps. Ready for the master blueprint. Every habit, good or bad, follows the same 4-step pattern: cue, craving, response, and reward. This is the backbone of the habit loop. The cue triggers your brain to initiate a behavior. The craving is the motivational force behind the habit. The response is the actual habit you perform, and the reward is the end goal that satisfies the craving. To build a good habit, you must make the cue obvious, the craving attractive, the response easy, and the reward satisfying. To break a bad habit, you simply invert it. Make the cue invisible, the craving unattractive, the response difficult, and the reward unsatisfying. This framework isn't just theory, it's a practical toolkit for rewriting your behavioral code, one atomic loop at a time. What you learn. Habits are not random. They are predictable loops. You don't break bad habits, you out-engineer them. Master the 4 laws, and you master the architecture of your own behavior. Chapter 4: The man who didn't look right. Why do we so often fail to notice the cues that trigger our habits? This chapter opens with a powerful story. A man arrives at the hospital with a minor complaint. The nurses know something is wrong, he just doesn't look right, but they can pinpoint why. It turns out he's having a deadly heart attack. Their intuition was screaming, but they hadn't trained themselves to recognize the specific cues. James Clear uses this story to introduce a game-changing idea. You must become a detective of your own habits. Before you can change a habit, you must first notice it. He introduces the habits scorecard, a simple list of your daily behaviors labeled with plus or equals for good, bad, or neutral. This isn't about judgment. It's about awareness. You can't change what you don't see, what you learn. Awareness is the first and most essential step toward change. You must shine a light on your autopilot behaviors before you can ever hope to reprogram them. Observation always precedes transformation. Chapter 5. The best way to start a new habit. How do you make a new habit actually stick? The secret isn't willpower, it's clarity. This chapter introduces two of the most practical techniques in the entire book: implementation intentions and habit stacking. An implementation intention is simply pre-deciding exactly when and where you will perform your new habit using the formula I will behavior at time and location. For example, I will meditate for 1 minute at 7 o'clock a.m. at my kitchen table. This eliminates ambiguity and decision fatigue. Then you supercharge it with habit stacking. After current habit, I will new habit. For example, after I pour my morning coffee, I will meditate for 1 minute. By tying your new habit to an existing one, you tap into an already automatic routine. This isn't about motivation. It's about designing a trigger that makes your habit inevitable. What you learn: a habit must have a home. The clearer you are about the time and location for a new behavior, the less mental energy it requires to start. Specificity is the fuel of action. Chapter 6. Motivation is overrated. Environment often matters more. Where do you think willpower comes from? Your mind? Your heart? James Clear makes a startling argument. Your willpower is in your environment. This chapter reveals that people with the best self-control are actually those who structure their lives to avoid temptation. They don't have superhuman discipline. They have smarter surroundings. Your environment is an invisible hand that shapes your behavior. Every cue in your home or office is a trigger for a habit, good or bad. Want to eat healthier? Place a bowl of fruit on the counter, not in the fridge. Want to practice guitar more? Leave it standing in the middle of the living room. The most powerful way to make a good habit easier is to design an environment where the right behavior is the most obvious and easy choice. Stop blaming your lack of motivation and start engineering your space for success. What you learn: stop trying to be the disciplined person in a distracting environment. Instead, be the designer of an environment that makes discipline unnecessary. Your surroundings should do the heavy lifting for you. Chapter 7. The secret to self-control. What if self-control isn't about willpower, but about wisdom? This chapter flips the entire concept of discipline on its head. The people with the most self-control aren't those who fight temptation head-on. They are simply those who engineer temptation out of their lives. Think about it. You don't need self-control to avoid eating cookies if there are no cookies in your house. The secret isn't to become a more disciplined person. It's to create a more disciplined environment. This is the inverse of the first law. To break a bad habit, make the cue invisible. Unsubscribe from tempting emails. Delete social media apps from your phone. Don't keep junk food in the pantry. Stop relying on willpower, which is finite and unreliable, and start relying on environment design, which is permanent and always on your side. True self-control is about playing offense with your surroundings, not defense with your impulses. What you learn: self-control is a short-term strategy. Environment design is a long-term solution. Stop trying to resist temptation and start simply removing it. Chapter 8. How to make a habit irresistible. Why are bad habits so tempting? It's not a moral failing, it's a biological one. This chapter dives into the second law: make it attractive. James Clear introduces the concept of temptation bundling, linking something you want to do with something you need to do. For example, only listen to your favorite podcast while at the gym. But the real game changer is understanding the dopamine-driven feedback loop. Dopamine isn't just released when you experience pleasure, it's released when you anticipate it. This is why scrolling social media is so addictive. The anticipation of a like or comment gives you a hit. To make good habits irresistible, You must supercharge them with anticipation. Associate your new habit with something you already enjoy. Want to run more? Promise yourself a delicious smoothie afterward. Your brain will soon crave the run because it knows the reward is coming. You're not fighting biology, you're hacking it. What you learn. Make your habits attractive not by changing the habit itself, but by changing its association. Link action with anticipation, and you'll transform duty into desire. Chapter 9. The role of family and friends in shaping your habits. Why do we effortlessly adopt the habits of those around us? It's because humans are wired to belong. This chapter reveals a powerful truth. Behavior is contagious. We imitate the habits of three groups in particular: the close family and friends, the many the tribe, and the powerful those with status and prestige. This is why surrounding yourself with people who already embody the habits you want is one of the most effective ways to change. If you want to get fit, join a running club. If you want to read more, join a book circle. Your culture and relationships set the invisible standard for what feels normal. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your environment. So choose your tribe wisely, because you will inevitably become a product of the shared expectations and behaviors of your inner circle. What you learn. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. If you want to change your habits, change your tribe. Shared identity is the ultimate catalyst for sustained behavior change. Chapter 10. How to find and fix the causes of your bad habits. Ever wonder why you keep falling back into bad habits despite knowing better? It's because you're attacking the behavior, not the root cause. This chapter teaches you to become a habit detective and uncover the underlying craving driving every bad habit. Every behavior, whether biting your nails or scrolling mindlessly, is an attempt to solve a problem. It's an adaptation. You snack to relieve boredom. You check notifications to feel connected. The habit is just the solution. Your brain has landed on. To break a bad habit, you must first diagnose the craving it satisfies, then find a better way to address that same need. Instead of snacking when bored, try a quick walk. Instead of scrolling, call a friend. You don't eliminate a craving. You redirect it. What you learn. Bad habits are solutions to deeper emotional or psychological needs. You can't simply remove a habit, you must replace it. Ask what the habit is doing for you and find a healthier way to achieve the same outcome. Chapter 11. Walk slowly, but never backward. Have you ever set a huge goal like running a marathon or writing a book only to give up because it felt too overwhelming? This chapter delivers a liberating truth. Consistency trumps intensity every time. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to show up. The French writer Voltaire famously said, "Perfect is the enemy of good." James Clear takes this further. Good is often the enemy of great if it keeps you from starting at all. The key is to embrace the tomb in a Trula strategy so simple it feels almost trivial, yet so powerful it can change your life. When starting a new habit, scale it down until it takes 2 minutes or less. Run a marathon becomes put on my running shoes. Write a book becomes write one sentence. This isn't about achieving big results quickly. It's about mastering the art of showing up. Momentum builds not from giant leaps, but from small, repeated steps. Walk slowly if you must, but never backward. What you learn. Show up even if you can't level up. The greatest threat to progress isn't imperfection, it's inaction. Start so small you can't say no, and let consistency compound into greatness. Chapter 12. The law of least effort. Human beings are wired to follow the law of least effort. When faced with 2 options, we naturally gravitate toward the one requiring the least work. Most productivity experts see this as a flaw. James Clear sees it as a superpower. Instead of fighting your nature, use it to build better habits, reduce the friction associated with good behaviors. Want to exercise more? Lay out your workout clothes the night before. Want to eat healthier? pre-cut vegetables and keep them at eye level in your fridge. Conversely, to break a bad habit, increase the friction, unplug the TV after use, delete social media apps, move the cookies to the highest shelf. Your environment should make the right behaviors easy and the wrong behaviors hard. Stop relying on motivation and start optimizing for convenience. Effort isn't the price of success, it's the barrier. Remove the barrier, and success becomes the path of least resistance. What you learn. Human nature isn't your enemy, it's your blueprint. Design your environment so that doing the right thing is easier than doing the wrong thing, and watch your habits effortlessly fall into place. Chapter 13. How to stop procrastinating by using the 2-minute rule. Procrastination isn't a character flaw, it's a design flaw. The secret to overcoming it lies in one of the simplest yet most powerful rules in the book, the 2-minute rule. Here's how it works. When you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do. Read before bed becomes read 1 page. Do yoga becomes roll out my yoga mat. This strategy works because it honors a fundamental truth. The hardest part of any habit is starting. The 2-minute rule isn't about the results you achieve. It's about mastering the art of showing up. It's a psychological trick that lowers the mental barrier to entry. Once you've started, it's often easier to continue. But even if you stop after 2 minutes, you've still reinforced the identity of someone who does the habit. You're not failing. You're building a ritual. Stop thinking big and start thinking small enough to be unstoppable. What you learn? Greatness comes from small beginnings. Don't commit to the whole journey, just commit to the first step. The 2-minute rule turns resistance into momentum and dreams into rituals. Chapter 14. How to make good habits inevitable and bad habits impossible. What if you could design your future behavior in advance? This chapter introduces one of the most effective strategies for habit change, commitment devices. A commitment device is a choice you make in the present that locks in better behavior in the future. It's using your wise, forward-thinking self to protect your impulsive present self from poor choices. Examples: use an app to block social media after 9 p.m. Buy groceries online to avoid impulse purchases. Leave your phone in another room while you work. James Clear calls this the fourth law of behavior change. Invert the third law. To make a good habit inevitable, reduce the friction. To make a bad habit impossible, increase the friction. You're not relying on willpower in the moment. You're restructuring your environment so the right behavior is the only behavior. Your future self will thank you. What you learn? Willpower is a limited resource. Design is forever. Don't hope to be disciplined. Engineer your life so discipline is unnecessary. Make good habits easy and bad habits hard, not just sometimes, but by default. Chapter 15. The Cardinal Rule of Behavior Change. What is the single most important rule for making any habit stick? Immediate satisfaction. We are wired to prioritize instant rewards over long-term payoffs. Good habits often have delayed gratification. Exercise pays off months later. Healthy eating shows results over years. Bad habits, however, offer instant relief. Scrolling feels fun now. Junk food tastes good immediately. To make good habits stick, you must hack the reward. Attach an immediate, satisfying payoff to a behavior that benefits your future self. Love coffee? Only let yourself enjoy it after you complete your workout. Want to binge watch? First, transfer $10 to your savings account. This strategy, called temptation bundling, links short-term gratification with long-term benefits. The cardinal rule is simple: what is immediately rewarded is repeated. What is immediately punished is avoided. Make your habits satisfying now, not just someday. What you learn. Humans repeat what feels good today, if it hurts tomorrow. To change behavior, bridge the gap between future benefits and present rewards. Make good habits feel gratifying in the moment, not just in theory. Chapter 16. How to stick with good habits every day. Want to build unbreakable consistency? Meet your new secret weapon, the habit tracker. This chapter reveals why measurement transforms behavior. Tracking your habits, whether with a calendar checkmark, a habit app, or a simple journal, accomplishes three things. It creates visual proof of progress. It reinforces your identity, I'm someone who does this, and it makes slipping more visible. But the real power lies in what James Clear calls the paperclip strategy. A young executive once moved a jar of paper clips from one side of his desk to the other every time he made a sales call. At the end of the day, the physical representation of his effort motivated him to keep going. Your habit tracker does the same. It turns abstract effort into tangible progress. And remember, never miss twice. Mistakes are inevitable. Compounding mistakes are optional. Get back on track immediately. What you learn, what gets measured gets managed. A habit tracker turns commitment into clarity and effort into evidence. Don't just do it, track it. And if you fall off, remember, one miss is a mistake. Two misses is the start of a new habit. Chapter 17: How an accountability partner can change everything. Why do we so often break promises to ourselves but rarely break promises to others? Because social accountability is a superpower. This chapter reveals that habits are not just personal, they're social. When you commit to someone else, you tap into two powerful forces: the desire to maintain social trust and the fear of letting others down. James Clear introduces the habit contract, a written or verbal agreement where you define the habit you want to build or break and the consequences for slipping up. Share it with someone you respect, a friend, coach, or even a social media group. The pain of public failure becomes far more motivating than private intention. Want to exercise? Tell a friend you'll pay them $50 if you skip a week. Accountability transforms vague goals into binding commitments. You're not just answering to yourself anymore, you're answering to your tribe. What you learn. Words whispered to yourself are easily broken. Words declared to others become bonds. Make your habits social and you make them sticky. Chapter 18: The truth about talent. When genes matter and when they don't. Are great people born with talent or do they build it? This chapter delivers a nuanced truth. Genes don't determine your destiny. They determine your areas of opportunity. Your genetics influence which habits feel effortless and which feel like a struggle. You might naturally thrive in creative environments but struggle with analytical tasks or vice versa. The key is to align your habits with your biological predispositions. Choose habits that feel like play, not punishment. If you're a night owl, don't force a 5 a.m. workout. If you love social interaction, don't pursue solitary hobbies. Talent isn't about being good at everything. It's about finding the few things where effort feels natural, then pour your energy there. As James Clear says, genes can predispose, but they don't predetermine. Your habits are the bridge between potential and mastery. What you learn. Don't fight your nature, channel it. The right habits feel less like work and more like wisdom. Align your efforts with your strengths, and you'll turn friction into flow. Chapter 19: The Goldilocks Rule. How to stay motivated in life and work. Why do we lose motivation for habits we once loved? The answer lies in the Goldilocks Rule. Humans experience peak motivation when working on tasks that are just right, not too hard, not too easy. When a habit is too easy, it bores us. When it's too hard, it discourages us. But when it's on the edge of our current abilities, it captivates us. This is the sweet spot where challenge meets skill, where flow lives. To sustain motivation long term, you must continually slightly elevate the difficulty of your habits. Run a little farther. Write a few more words. Learn a slightly harder chord. Progress itself becomes the reward. And here is the secret. The greatest achievers don't just work harder, they fall in love with the boredom of practice. They thrive in the stretch. Mastery isn't a sprint. It's a lifelong romance with the daily grind. What you learn. Motivation isn't found, it's forged. The work must be hard enough to challenge you, but easy enough to feel possible. Fall in love with the process of stretching, not just the outcome. Chapter 20: The downside of creating good habits. Can habits become a cage? This chapter delivers a crucial warning. Habits automate behavior, and automation can blind us. When a habit becomes second nature, we stop paying attention to errors. We default to what's comfortable, not what's optimal. The very strength of habits' efficiency becomes their weakness when we need to adapt, innovate, or question. The solution isn't to abandon habits, but to build periodic reflection and review. Schedule regular time to ask, are these habits still serving me? Am I improving or just repeating? James Clear calls this the annual review, a habit of questioning your habits. Embrace a mindset of continuous refinement, not rigid routine. Habits are tools, not rules. They should free your mind for higher thinking, not trap you in unconscious repetition. What you learn. Habits are meant to be servants, not masters. Never let automation become atrophy. Stay awake to your own life, review, refine, and never stop asking why. Conclusion: the secret to results that last. So, what's the ultimate secret to creating lasting change? It's not willpower, talent, or luck, it's systems. Goals are about the results you want to achieve. Systems are about the processes that lead to those results. When you fall in love with the system, the tiny, atomic habits you practice daily, the results take care of themselves. This conclusion ties everything together: the 1% improvements, the identity shift, the 4 laws, and the environment designs. Success isn't a flash of inspiration. It's the slow, steady stacking of small wins. It's the compound interest of self-improvement. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. So build systems so strong that success becomes inevitable. Start small, stay consistent, and let your habits carry you further than any goal ever could. What we learn: great lives are built not on grand achievements, but on daily rituals. Master the system, and the outcomes will follow. Your future is shaped not by one dramatic moment, but by 1,000 tiny ones. Atomic Habits teaches us that transformation doesn't require monumental effort, it requires microscopic consistency. The journey to greatness begins not with a single leap, but with a small step repeated daily. Your habits are the architecture of your destiny. Design them wisely.